When someone asks me what I do, I always say, first of all, I empower people. I'm not just a martial arts teacher. I'm not just a fitness instructor or a trainer. I'm not just a athletic director. What I say, I empower people. And the more important than that, I always like to say, not just that I empower people, but I free people. I liberate people. And when I say that, the martial arts, knowing how to defend yourself, and not just the martial arts, there's people know the martial arts who can't fight to defend themselves in anything. They can fight the air, and they can read you, quote a bunch of, text stuff and information and history and things like that. But when it comes to actually putting it to use in a stress situation, they can't use it. So just because somebody knows the martial arts doesn't mean they can use it. Being able to use it, there's some people who barely know any martial arts who defend themselves way better than those who know a lot of it. That is true. So when I say I provide people with freedom, the plan is when you can defend yourself, when you can fight, it's just like this. I'll give you a good example. When you go out to an animal, and when I say an animal, I'm talking about a wild animal, all right? That animal walks around with pride. His chest is out, it looks up, it's proud. The reason why is because if you mess with it, he will whoop your ass. And that's the truth, okay? I'm gonna give you a really good example of this. When I lived on a farm, we had dogs, okay? And these dogs weren't these domesticated dogs like everybody have now that, come up and they're always, all over you like a dang on 7-year-old child because they want you to feed it or pet it or something like that. These dogs, they lived out on the farm, and they ran off, other animals and, they ate off the farm so that we fed them sometimes, but they were allowed to live on their own. So they were kind of wild dogs. Well, when I would hang with them, it was so cool because they weren't domesticated, they weren't dependent on us. And those dogs, when they come up, the males, they weren't neutered or, cut or anything like that. When that male would come to me, I knew he could whoop my ass if I did anything wrong to him, all right? Now, a domesticated dog, you could kick it and it don't do what you tell you. Get over here, you treat him, mistreat him, whatever, yell at him, scream at him, and you ain't got to worry about the fact that that dog could bite your throat out if he wanted to. You don't believe he will. So there's no respect for that animal. It may be love or whatever it is, but there's no true respect for it as a free animal. It's domesticated, trapped, captured, okay? So this dog, they would come up, and first of all, it came up to me because it wanted to. So the feeling of acceptance that I had with this killer, the dogs are killers. They hunt, they kill, all right? And they defend with lethal force. They're not going to shoot you with a pepper spray gun or bite you in the leg to get you off of a wild dog. So first of all, being accepted. And then when I would pet this dog, he was letting me pet him. He wasn't all over me. He wasn't licking on me, wasn't jumping on me, all that trying to get me to accept him. He showed me that he was accepting me. The feeling that I felt, me personally, was always a deep feeling of respect and slight fear that I knew I could not mistreat this animal. Because first of all, him being nice to me was awesome because he didn't have to be. He could leave if he wanted to, and he could probably attack me if he wanted to. And the same thing with the female. She was the same way. When they came up, it was like a king and a queen lions walking up to you. And you're like, almost like, oh my God, is it coming to eat me or is it coming to, and when they accepted you, you felt so good to be around them. It was so proud. I felt way better than, get over here now, than doing that to an animal. So in saying that, I learned that from dealing with these I don't want to call them wild dogs, but our dogs who are allowed to roam as they wanted to. I learned about that through them. So when I teach somebody to defend themselves, and you are no longer afraid. When I say not afraid, I'm not talking egotistical jerk running around talking smack to people, which honestly people like that, as soon as you smack them, all they're gonna do is run and call the cops on you and get somebody else with a gun. They probably can't fight to save their life. That's why they put off that energy, which is another point that I make. When you can defend yourself and nobody's longer a threat to you, and you know that you don't have to be anybody's B-I-T-C-H, for any reason, because if you want to, you can handle them. And they ain't getting out of that room unless you decide so. That allows you to pursue true peace. We cannot pursue peace, or we cannot be free to pursue true peace if we feel threatened at all. If we feel threatened by criminals, we feel threatened by our boss, we feel threatened by our abusive spouse, we feel threatened by our abusive child, we feel threatened by, whatever it is. Anybody who makes us feel threatened owns our freedom. So we can't be free if we feel threatened. When you can truly defend yourself, and I'm not talking this egotistical, punching the air, kicking a bag crap, and that's all you've ever done. It's got to be legit stuff. And as far as what's legit, that's a whole nother different video. And it doesn't have anything to do with fighting in the UFC or MMA fighting in a cage or competition fighting. That's not making your self-defense legit. Yes, they could defend themselves probably well, but that's not what only self-defense is. Totally different thing between sport competition and street self-defense. However, when I'm empowering somebody and they know that they feel confident that if a human being tries to harm them, they can flip the script and make it it's their choice on who makes it home tonight. If somebody tries to attack me, I know I can decide on whether they get to make it home tonight or not. They're not deciding if I get to make it home tonight or not. What that does, when you can reach that point, that frees you from being arrogant. It frees you from having to be rude. It frees you from having to posture. All this stuff that people do to try to keep themselves from having to defend themselves, because they know if they have to defend themselves, they're going to lose. They have no true confidence that they can do it. So in front of that, have to defend themselves, they position themselves with arrogance, ego, things to fear, to try to ward people away from ever coming to that point. When you know that you're not afraid of reaching that point where you may have to defend yourself with empty hand self-defense. We're not even talking weapons, stuff like that, but it comes down to it, and it's these mano a mano, and you can handle yourself. You don't have to posture with arrogance, rudeness, tough guy acts, tough girl acts, all these things like that, because you're not worried about things coming to that. Because if they want to bring it to that, then let's go. And you're going to dominate this person, and you're going to decide on how that person walks away if you allow them to walk away. So once you reach that point, then you can find the true freedom to explore your emotions and your mind, of not being afraid of other human beings, not being intimidated of other things, not being afraid of harm to yourself, not being afraid of dying is where it really goes to. Then you can really start seeing people for who they are. We can start understanding people. We can start learning to de-escalate because we're not intimidated by situations. We can start choosing not want to harm somebody instead of feeling that we have to, because we're afraid of the fact that if it comes down to actual contact, we may not be able to handle ourselves. So, making a long story short, when I say that I teach people freedom, that's what I mean. And I free people, I free them from themselves, because we all know, they say the greatest threat is ourselves. Threat to ourselves is ourselves. And that is true, because we all put off this energy of negative energy, towards others, because we feel threatened and intimidated about ourselves and about how we can handle ourselves. So learning good self-defense and being capable and learning true self-defense, that is true freedom for human beings. And I tell you, I saw it in these dogs. These dogs were free. They were 100% free. They didn't rely on anything. They didn't rely on the dog food we fed them. They'll go hunt, they'll kill something, they eat it out there. But when they came up, and that's the position you want to be in as a human being. You want to be in a position where you're free, where you're not dependent of anyone or anything. That doesn't mean you being rude and being cruel to people, because you shouldn't have to be. Once you reach that true freedom, then you can really be a kind person. You can really be a calm person. You don't have to put people down. You don't have to threaten people. You don't have to, feel that you need to make everybody think you're better than them so that you can deal with them. You can look at everybody equally with equal value, and those who you feel are unequal, you'll want to help lift them up instead of wanting to stomp on top of their head so you feel better about yourself. But that's what I feel learning how to truly defend yourself does, is it offers people, that's the true freedom right there.